Good evening. I'm Betsy Stites, president of the Woodbury Cottage Grove League of Women Voters, and I'm really excited to have you all here tonight. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful evening. One of the things that I always like to do is to start off just being clear with who we are as the League of Women Voters so that everybody's clear about that. So the League is neither nonpartisan or supporting or opposing any candidate or political party at any level of government, but we're always working on vital issues of concern to the members and public. We want you to know that our mission is to empower voters and to defend democracy. What we do, hopefully almost every month, is to have wonderful, wonderful speakers, such as our two guests this evening, that really help us be much more educated as we are dealing with issues every day, but also in getting us ready for voting. So we really are thrilled to have all of you here tonight because we envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, and the knowledge that they need in order to participate. I am going to turn it over to Jody Ritaka, our communications director, and also to thank Lynn Marcus because she has been so involved with the environment and climate and for years and years and years, actually. And it's wonderful to see the progress that's been made. And I know Lynn has been instrumental in helping both at the local and state level. So Jody, I'm going to turn it over to you so that we can get on with our program about waste management.
Well, thank you so much, Betsy, and also Lynn for all your help in preparing for tonight. And I'm excited to introduce our speakers, Nikki Stewart and Michael Reed. And just keep in mind, you can submit your questions throughout the presentation, but we'll ask your questions after they get done with the presentation. So we'll get started here. So Nikki Stewart is a Senior Environmental Resources Manager with Washington County's Department of Public Health and Environment, and also serves on the Joint Leadership Team or Executive Team for the Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy. Nikki has been with the county for over 20 years, starting in household hazardous waste management and waste management in county operations, and moved to leading solid waste planning and policy and supporting staff meeting requirements and implementing strategies and programs in the county's waste management master plan. Since 2018, she has been co-lead for the administration of the Recycling and Energy Board, including management of staff and Recycling and Energy Center operations and joint programming between Washington and Ramsey counties. And Michael Reed is a division manager with the Ramsey County's Department of Public Health and Environment Health Division, and also serves on the joint leadership team with Nikki Stewart. And he has been with Ramsey County for over 26 years, starting in the solid and hazardous waste compliance program, and then business technical assistance, pre-demolition inspections, deconstruction and building material salvage, then supporting work on the policy goals related to reuse, waste and toxicity reduction, recycling, and resource recovery. And beginning in May of 2021, Michael stepped into the position of co-lead with Nikki as a member of the joint leadership team with Recycling Energy. So excited to hear your presentation. And so Nikki and Michael, you can begin.
Well, thank you, Jody. So Nikki's going to share the presentation here. We're very excited to be with all of you tonight and look forward to sharing our story with all of our work with recycling and energy. The title of our presentation, Capturing Value from Waste, and this is very much a fundamental of how we view opportunities to do better with the waste stream. Next slide, please. So as you know, Ramsey and Washington represent the East Metro, and Ramsey and Washington County have been working together since the 1980s to manage trash responsibly. This goes back to the days of our beginnings. Working together was the Lake Jane landfill in Lake Elmo, and that was the main disposal location for a lot of Ramsey and Washington County waste, and it ended up contaminating the groundwater and causing a number of environmental problems. The county boards decided they were going to look for better solutions than putting waste in the ground. And that was the genesis again of Ramsey and Washington working together. The facility in Newport was a collaborative effort between the two counties, and that opened up for business in 1987. Ramsey and Washington represent over 800,000 residents. This is about 14% of the state's population and about an equal amount of the state's trash. It's very racially diverse, and we have a number of dynamics. So we've got urban, suburban, and rural communities within the two counties. Next slide, please. So the Recycling and Energy Board was created by a joint powers agreement between Ramsey and Washington County. It's merely a legal agreement for two government entities to work together collaboratively. And in this case, it was a joint purchase of the facility that you're going to be hearing more about tonight. The board is comprised of 5 commissioners from Ramsey County and 4 commissioners from Washington County. And then there's 2 alternates, one from each of the counties. And we've got ex officio members from this Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, as well as the city of Newport, where the R&E facility is located. And as far as the board projects, I've been using the word collaboration, but it truly is. We've got the work that's being completed by Recycling and Energy staff, working very closely with staff from both Ramsey and Washington counties. So it's very much a team effort, and we're working together in that environment on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So the R&E guiding principles, as I mentioned, the R&E board has been developing the strategy for integrated solid waste management in the East Metro for many years. This culminated in the board developing and approving guiding principles that are shown here. These principles are to plan for a 20 to 30 year horizon and build on the current system and allow changes in processing to emerge over time. You know, the technologies yesterday are not necessarily going to meet the challenges of tomorrow. So we need to be able to adapt to that. And within that, assure flexibility that we do have that ability to change and adapt to future challenges and conditions. And all the while, as we look at responsible management methods for the waste stream, we're managing the risks of both Ramsey and Washington County. And as I mentioned earlier, we're pivoting from waste as a discard to waste as a resource to add value to the local economy and the environment. And I was testifying before a legislative committee today, and came up with an estimate between Ramsey, Washington, and Hennepin County. We collectively throw away over $50 million in recyclables every year. Had they been recovered and sent to market, they could have generated $50 million in revenue. So it's definitely a value, a resource here that we're trying to get people to think differently about. Next slide, please. So in 2019, the R&E went through a visioning process that involved staff and partners to determine our mission and vision statements to drive our work and goals. And the vision, vibrant, healthy communities without waste. And I want to emphasize that without waste. We're doing a lot of what we're doing because our communities keep generating waste. It would be a victory for all of us if we got down to zero waste. And the less waste produced, the more, I think, the better job we're doing collectively. The mission, enhancing public health and the environment by creating value from waste through partnerships. Our mission is achieved through multiple efforts, both upstream and downstream in the waste system. For reducing and recycling, R&E's flagship program is Biz Recycling, which helps businesses, nonprofits, schools, and institutions in both counties recycle better through grants and technical assistance. We also have programs to address food waste prevention, reduction of hazardous materials from dry cleaners, mattress recycling, and others. Upstream waste reduction and recycling work are the highest actions in the solid waste management hierarchy and are the highest priority for the counties and recycling and energy. However, we still, of course, have materials that end up in the trash, and there's a lot of it. In fact, we are receiving 450,000 tons down at the facility on an annual basis. So R&E manages waste downstream as well. This happens at the R&E Center in Newport, which Nikki will talk about in the second half of the presentation. Next slide, please. So as far as the county's role in an integrated waste management system, many of you have perhaps heard the term the waste management hierarchy. And this offers a prioritization from least preferred to most preferred. And I'll start at the bottom here. As far as landfilling, I mentioned back in the 80s and the years predating that, that was the primary strategy for managing Ramsey and Washington County waste, was to landfill it. And the landfill engineering has come a long way in this time. The landfill that we were using back then did not have a liner in it. The landfills of today are highly engineered, and we do count on landfilling for a portion of our waste from Ramsey and Washington, but it's not it's only after it goes through our resource recovery facility. So resource recovery and using that resource to generate energy is the next higher level on the hierarchy. Moving up, then we look at source separation, both residential and commercial, and that includes your curbside recycling, commercial recycling, the organics collection, and yard waste. Moving up from there, the best way to reduce waste is not to produce it in the first place. So we're also focusing on waste reduction and reuse strategies. We do this moving up through extensive outreach and education. And as far as hazardous waste, many of you are familiar with Ramsey and Washington counties household hazardous waste collection programs. And one detail you might not be aware of is we have a reciprocal use across the entire metro. So if, say you office in Dakota County, but you live in Washington County, you could drop your household hazardous waste off at their location and just flash your driver's license. And we've got that cooperation going across the entire metro. All the metro counties also regulate commercial hazardous waste generation, and all the 7 metro counties are required to have regulatory programs that license and inspect commercial hazardous waste generators. Next slide, please. So planning for the future, each county in Minnesota is required under state statute to ensure its solid waste is managed properly. The metro counties are required to prepare solid waste master plans outlining the strategies they implement to reach state policy goals, including reaching a 75% recycling goal by the year 2030. And included in our waste management master plans are how we're going to go about doing all of this. How are we going to go about more waste reduction and reuse? How are we going to encourage businesses and residents to increase the amount of materials that they separate for both recycling and food waste? And we're continuing to promote some of our other programs, our household hazardous waste program, keeping toxic waste out of the solid waste to start with. The problem materials include such items as appliances, tires. We can do better with that, and we have outlets for those materials where they can be separately recycled. And of course, yard waste. There is a state statute that bans putting yard waste in landfills and in your trash. And so we have compost sites available to residents, both across Ramsey and Washington counties. And in terms of additions, we're looking at Ramsey and Washington Recycling and Energy to recover additional recyclables. And Nikki will be talking about these additions later on in the presentation, but also to recover source separated organic materials or food scraps. Next slide, please. So recycling energy programs, we've got programs to complement the county efforts and to help the communities across both counties to move materials up the waste management hierarchy. Next slide, please. So with our biz recycling, this is one of the programs I'm most proud of. This is where we can truly offer high value solutions to businesses. And if we have one challenge, it's getting the word out. We've reached out to a lot of businesses, many businesses across the 2 counties, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And Within this program, we offer no cost consultants. That's one of the requirements is you meet with a consultant. They come into your place of business. They help you assess, waste generation points, recycling opportunities, waste reduction opportunities. They help look at contracts that you're using with your current waste hauler to manage both your trash and your recycling and help you look for opportunities to do better. And these grants are available to purchase containers, to increase the recycling of containers, plastic bottles, cans, glass, paper, and food waste. And as I mentioned, businesses receive a free on-site consultant that has recycling expertise. We're offering grants up to $10,000 per business or $20,000 per multi-unit residential property to implement stronger recycling practices and looking for strategies to manage the solid waste stream better. And you can find out more about our program at bizrecycling.com. So the next slide, the 2021 Biz Recycling Impacts. We've awarded over $1.1 million in grants. This includes 28 businesses that just started recycling for the first time. And we got another additional 31 businesses that had not been collecting food scraps and organics materials for composting, and they now are. And then in addition, we had 154 businesses that were determined to already have recycling programs in place, but we helped them expand that in the capacity of those programs through this grant and technical assistance program. Next slide, please. So a lot of our work is, through communication and education. Between the two counties and our numerous partners throughout Ramsey and Washington and beyond, the Recycling and Energy pursues communication and education across these various areas. Not only food waste prevention, we work very closely with restaurants and also organizations like Second Harvest to recover food before it becomes a waste and look for opportunities for it to be used as food and keep it out of the waste stream. In fact, more than 20% of what comes down to our plant every year that requiring disposal is food waste. It's a significant amount, and we can do much better. Recycling is another piece. That's a big focus of our work. And the next piece is, of course, waste reduction. And I challenge people too. I've got a neighbor that was very proud of their recycling bin, and it was heaping with single-use plastic bottles. And fantastic that they were recycling those, but if we could consider reuse opportunities, maybe reusable water bottles, then you would not be generating all that plastic in the first place that would require recycling. Recycling is a positive, but if we could do better and not require creating materials that need recycling, then we're one step ahead. Next step is materials reuse. And one thing I think about is we've all decided as individuals in our own personal lives what is considered reuse, what is considered reusable. Our cars are not disposable, our clothing's not disposable, our dishes in our kitchen are disposable, but are not disposable. But think about that transition to where we've decided that it's okay to use things a single time and throw them away and not think twice about it. So I challenge everyone here to think about, in your own lives and maybe in your business community, what items could we maybe keep out of the trash because we found an opportunity to find a reusable option. And then looking at proper waste disposal. And a key piece of that is just awareness. And I'm hoping after today, all of you understand where your trash goes. And after you put it out at the curb, a lot of people don't know where it goes. They say, well, it goes in the garbage truck. Well, where does it go from there? And Nikki's going to be talking about where your trash goes from Ramsey and Washington County. Next slide, please. So the Business Pollution Prevention Program, or we call it BPP. This is another very exciting program. And as As was included in my introduction, I used to work in the Ramsey County Solid and Hazardous Waste Compliance Program, and we'd go out and we'd lead with education and technical assistance to businesses in terms of achieving and maintaining compliance, but also looking at waste reduction. And this is just one more tool that we've got available to us to be of real value to businesses. And not only do we come out and offer information, but we've actually got grant programs. And you know, through this program, we can offer technical assistance and support up to $50,000. And we can focus on businesses that are using various chemicals. And some examples are perchloroethylene. And I'm pleased to report to you that Washington County has no dry cleaners in the entire county that are currently using perchloroethylene. And perchloroethylene was the chemical of choice by the industry, but it also, there's not too many dry cleaners that used perchloroethylene in the past that haven't contaminated the ground, the soil, or the groundwater below their business. And in Ramsey County, we're down to 2 dry cleaners that are still using perchloroethylene, and we've got grant money available to them. They just haven't taken us up on it. But those again are real successes. Another focus of our BPP program is volatile organic compounds, which is a fancy name for chemical solvents. And some of the businesses that we're reaching out to with the grants are auto body shops, industrial painters, and printers that are still using you know, solvents. And if we can help them reduce that, then it reduces air emissions, it reduces hazardous waste disposal, and it improves the environment for the employees if there's less solvent in the space where they work. So it just there's a lot of benefits all the way around. Next slide, please. So joint activities, this is our term that is the shared program between Ramsey, Washington, and Recycling and Energy. And this is all the work that we do to push waste upstream. And this is all the work that happens above or I mean ahead of all the waste that actually gets generated. But we're doing everything that we can right now to try to get businesses and residents to look for better opportunities than the trash can for making things go away, and also to look for waste reduction opportunities. But I mentioned biz recycling grants. We've got grants for multi-unit residential recycling, and I mentioned the business pollution prevention program, food waste prevention. I did mention earlier our grants to various organizations, including Second Harvest. In the past, we funded their organization to purchase a truck that goes out and actually picks up food at the end of a day for various restaurants, where it can be collected and it can be redirected to human consumption and not end up in the waste stream. We're also looking at compost market development. When we're talking about recycling, it's not truly recycled until we find a home for the recycled material. And we're encouraging all of our residents and our businesses to look at food scrap recycling and through composting. And that's great that we're doing that, but it's not really fully recycled until we find a market for the finished product, which is compost. And also looking at deconstruction and construction and demolition recycling. There's probably as much construction, demolition, and industrial waste generated every year in the metro as there is commercial and residential trash. And so that's a major waste stream as well. And I'm excited to say that Ramsey and Washington issued their first deconstruction grant to a project in downtown Stillwater. And that's the project's still in motion, but they were going to recover as much of the dimensional lumber as they possibly could. And there were certain fixtures within and different pieces of light fixtures and things like that they were able to recover that would have otherwise ended up in a demolition landfill. And then through ongoing outreach and education, we're constantly looking for opportunities, and tonight is one of those examples of opportunities that we have. So thank you for this, to get our word out, get our story out. We're looking for new opportunities to reach out to residents and also the business community as far as making them aware of what we have to offer and what we've got in motion. Next slide, please. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Nikki and to talk about the Recycling and Energy Center in Newport.
Good evening. Yes, Nikki Stewart. I'll cover all about our Recycling and Energy Center, and I'll just get started here with the next slide. The Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy Center is a waste processing facility, and it's owned and operated by the 2 counties. Both counties have waste designation ordinances that require all trash generated in the 2 counties be delivered to this facility. At the center, we produce a refuse-derived fuel, or sometimes called an RDF, which is transported to 2 Xcel waste-to-energy facilities in southern Minnesota for electricity generation. Annually, the Recycling and Energy Center manages about 450,000 tons of trash, as Michael had mentioned. And our RDF processing line includes a sortation equipment system to remove metals. And from that, we're able to recover about 14,000 tons of metals of recycling each year. One of the drivers of R&E's work is the state of Minnesota's 75% recycling goal for the metro counties by 2030. For about a decade, R&E has been studying how to reach that goal and find more value from waste. And that includes making investments in the R&E Center to enhance our processes, which I'll present in the next few slides. Some of the benefits of the R&E Center and what it does: it creates jobs. We've got 78 full-time employees operating the facility and also supporting our upstream programs that Michael was describing. It supports the local economy. We're reducing landfilling and increasing recycling. It enables trash to be used to generate electricity, and it generates fewer greenhouse gas emissions than landfilling. Some of the impacts of the R&E Center, we haven't been able to yet update our 2021 numbers, but for 2020, we processed over 401,000 tons of trash to produce fuel to power 12,500 homes by electricity. And as mentioned earlier, we recovered 14,000 tons of metal. And instead of this waste being sent to a landfill, over 98,000 fewer metric tons of CO2 was produced. The R&E Center was purchased so the facility could create products from waste. The R&E board directed renovations to the R&E Center, and this investment to the facility since the purchase in 2016 includes installation of odor mitigation and monitoring system, a bulky waste loadout addition to handle some of our bulky materials, and also a tour room, which we're someday hopefully going to have folks back in to see the sites there. We did a renovation to our administrative building. And we also enclosed our refuse-derived fuel loadout area for odor management as well. And recently, we also installed a used beverage container sortation equipment, some robotics, to recover even more metals from the waste. On Earth Day last year, the R&E board kicked off construction at the R&E Center for the recent planned improvements. And those improvements are including adding technology and equipment to recover more recyclables, including type 1 and 2 plastics, cardboard, and additional metals from the waste stream. This is to recover those missed opportunities that we're still finding in the waste when we do waste sorts. And Michael had mentioned some of those missed opportunities in his presentation. While the 2 counties also invest heavily upstream with education and infrastructure for recycling at the source, we really want to focus that recycling at home or at work is still the very best option because recyclables are cleaner and more valuable this way. But what we're doing at the R&E Center is trying to capture some of those missed opportunities. And with our improvements, we're also developing a system to collect residential food scraps for composting. And maybe in the next 5 or 6 years, we'll move to anaerobic digestion of that material. So of these 2 improvements we're making right now to the R&E Center, I want to focus on the planned food scraps pickup program. As we know, food scraps make up about 20% of the waste. And what this food scrap bag program is, it's a voluntary opt-in program. We're developing a website and customer service phone system so residents may sign on to order bags. We will be providing an annual supply of thick compostable bags to residents for free. Residents that participate will collect food scraps in the special bags and then place the bags in their trash cart or dumpster for collection. Waste haulers then will collect the bags along with the trash, and the bags will be mechanically separated from the trash at the Recycling and Energy Center. The food waste then will be marketed to compost facilities or later to anaerobic digestion facilities. And our goal is over 5 years to have 40% of our residents participating, and that should achieve 30,000 tons of food scraps collected annually. And this is a visual description of that system. Again, residents will get the special food scrap bags to use for their food scraps and place in the trash cart or dumpster for collection. Haulers will collect the bags along with the trash. The bags will be sorted from the trash at the R&E Center, and then food scraps are recycled at compost facilities. And so we tested, we've got some robotics that will be part of the planned improvements. So I'm hoping this video shows for you. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. This is some of the new equipment we'll be using, and it's able to identify the green bags that will be specially designed for the food scraps. And these will be planning to be installed later this year at the R&E Center. I just have a couple more seconds here. And here it's a demonstration showing of it being picked up by amongst trash. So we get a lot of questions on the bags that we'll be using as part of this program. And the R&E and the counties, we've done a lot of research on this. And the bags are specially designed to withstand the trip in a garbage truck and then eventually break down with their contents in composting or anaerobic digestion. And so these are the specifications that we're looking at. We're going to be offering to residents, again, at no cost, a 6-gallon size bag and a 13-gallon size bag. And households will get about 60 bags per year for free, and then they'll be able to pay for additional bags. A resident can sign on to the website that we're developing or call our customer service to order those bags. The Recycling and Energy and the county selected this system for a number of reasons. We found it to be less expensive. This system using separate carts, or a system using, separate carts would cost about 10 times as much as a system without using food scrap bags. This is more efficient. The system doesn't require additional carts or an additional collection day or more collection trucks. Instead, food scraps are collected using the trucks and garbage routes that are already in the community. Fewer greenhouse gas emissions are generated. The system results in a net decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, while a separate cart system results in a net increase, largely due to having more collection trucks. And it's more equitable. This system allows all residents, regardless of their housing type, their city or hauler, to participate. Buildings like apartments and condos don't always have space for separate carts, and this allows everyone to participate. So the timeline for this program, right now we're conducting a focus group to really understand the in-home program user experience and identify any barriers to participating and testing some of our program messaging. That's happening as we speak. We'll also be conducting a pilot or a simplified test implementation under very limited parameters to test out our systems, our equipment. And that pilot will be under specific geographic boundaries and limited to a number of participants. That'll be mid to late this year. Then we'll have a phase 1 launch of the program that will occur in phases and scale up. This will include a select few cities initially and start in 2023. We have not identified those cities yet. And then we'll have additional phases launched, rolling out over several months to ultimately become available to all our residents in both counties by the end of 2023. So with some of those improvements I was just presenting on, the R&E Center will be recovering more types of materials from the trash. That first bubble here with source separated organics and durable compostable bags that will be sorted at the R&E Center with Robotics. Currently, that will be going to composting, but we're also looking at other end markets such as anaerobic digestion, where food waste can be converted into biogas, a renewable energy that can displace natural gas from non-renewable fossil sources. Second, with the installation of the recyclable recovery system, this middle bubble, and pulling out more of the plastics and the metals. It will also pull out some organic rich material, mainly from food scraps that were not source separated through the durable or the food scrap bag program. And we're studying also new technologies for that material, such as anaerobic digestion, because currently this material is going to a landfill. Then third, this last bubble here, we still have refuse-derived fuel that is currently being produced and used by Excel to generate electricity. The RDF processing will continue for the rest of the trash of what is not sorted out as organics or recyclables. And we're really analyzing that material for various characteristics so technology providers can identify how best to utilize this feedstock. And some ways that could be possible is, again, anaerobic digestion, gasification, chemical recycling, or other similar technologies. And so with this new sortation equipment through the enhancements, we'll still be striving for that 75% recycling goal further than ever before. And as Michael said, this work really aligns with those guiding principles, such as that 20+ year time horizon, assuring flexibility and pivoting the view from waste to resource to add value to our local economy and benefit the environment. And as mentioned with the new technologies, these are some of the possibilities: anaerobic digestion to produce a biogas, gasification using with the RDF and converting to a synthetic gas for products or gas production, or chemical recycling and breaking down the plastics into chemical components to be upgraded to higher value plastics. And the last slide, and I think Michael covered it really well earlier, was just the biggest thing. I think our residents sometimes ask, what can I do compared to what everything is happening at the RNE and in our counties and waste management? And a lot of it has to do with just minimizing our waste and buy and use less, as Michael was describing, and consider reusable items, repair items that you have. Also, we are always emphasizing trying to recycle right, and you can go to your city or township's website to learn more. Oftentimes they have the most current information that their hauler provides in terms of what is accepted. And we also encourage residents to use our county yard waste sites, household hazardous waste site. We have our environmental center for Washington County in Woodbury, and also our food scrap collection sites, or compost at home with backyard composting. So with that, that is our final slide. And I think right now we'll turn it over for questions.
All right. So interesting. I had no idea some of the things that are going on. It's just fascinating. We have one question for Nikki. Can you say a little bit more about the anaerobic digestion? Exactly what is that?
That's the bacteria management in the absence of oxygen that breaks it down into a biogas. And so we're looking at new technology as part of a solicitation process to see what is available to really fit the needs of the end product that we'll be separating with the food waste. And our county commissioners on the Recycling and Energy Board have had the opportunity to tour a lot of these facilities that already exist in the US, whether it be in California or on the East Coast. And so it's something that's out there. It's very common with farm waste and various sewage material and wastewater treatment plants. And so now it's going to be considered for food waste material.
You know, along the same lines, are fix-it clinics around to do reuse?
I think your question was, are fix-it clinics a method for reuse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, they're definitely available for reuse. That's the idea of, you can bring in various items, whether it be a broken lamp or a toaster, and bring it in, and we have volunteers called fixers that can help residents figure out how to do some simple fixes to it. It may not be simple to some of us, but some of these are very common items that can be fixed. And then you can have that, extend that length of that product.
I have another question. What happens in the recyclables that are put in our recycling bin now? And yeah, go ahead.
I can take a shot at that. I just wanted to also take the opportunity too. A lot of people will put their recyclables in their recycling bin in a plastic bag. And that is a big, big problem. Think about everything that gets caught up on your vacuum cleaner, on the brush, and you got to cut it off. That's exactly what happens with plastic bags in the recycling sorting center. So what happens with all the single sort recycling that you put in your bin at home or at the business? They go to a facility and it gets separated out. They've got some mechanical sortation, and Nikki showed a video earlier of that robotic arm. They can program these robots to recognize different types of plastics and grab those by plastic resin types. The paper gets sorted out, the cardboard, the glass, the metal, and then it goes all off to separate markets. So it's quite a process. We've got about 4 or 5 major facilities in the metro area that do just that.
Wow, those robotics are so cool. Hopefully you'll have tours sometime in the future that we can come see it in person. Can nonprofits like a church make a request for technical assistance or grants?
Yes, absolutely.
For the biz recycling program, yes, definitely.
Okay. Deconstruction is cool. How does that work?
So deconstruction is the concept of taking a building apart, kind of the opposite way that you built it. And there's all different types of strategies. You can do what we call light stripping and just grab the items of value. And if it's an older house that might have some unique woodwork, it might have unique lighting fixtures, doors, windows, things like that, that just have some character to them, and they can be removed. And there's a number of different retailers around the metro area that sell those types of materials. And if you're remodeling a period home or a period commercial building, you can't buy those materials at Home Depot, Menards, or Lowe's. They don't exist. And so if you want to be true to the period of time, you need to go to one of these used building material retailers and to look for the items that you're interested in purchasing for that renovation.
Another question. Some states have legislation on plastic bottles and bags, so tax or making them illegal. Have those laws been helpful in decreasing waste?
It's kind of a mixed bag. There's a number of states, and I'm not sure if the person asking the question was referring to bottle bill states where they have deposits. That's one example. And we do not have deposits here in Minnesota. I know in Iowa and Michigan and a number of other states they do. It's a mixed bag because here in Minnesota, the recycling industry has invested tens and hundreds of millions of dollars into the current infrastructure to collect these materials at the curb, to separate them out at the recycling centers. And in those states where they have what we call bottle bills, a lot of that infrastructure is not needed anymore. And these materials are collected at the grocery store, or many of them are, not all of them. And the problem of transitioning from the system we have now to requiring deposits is all this millions and millions of dollars of investments would be a waste. And so it's a very sensitive topic with the industry on how best to do this. Now, in states that have deposits, they recover more aluminum cans than we do here in Minnesota. But at the same time, they don't recover as much paper because there's no deposit on paper and cardboard. And so I don't know if it's complicated, but I think Minnesota's got a great system the way we do it. We just need more people participating on the recycling side.
Can you talk a little bit about why it's beneficial to compost food scraps?
Right now, well, I can go ahead and start, Michael, and then you can chime in. Right now, well, one, if you do backyard composting, then that material has less to travel. And two, if it ends up going to the recycling and energy center, the food scraps right now, most of that is going to landfill. It's not a good high BTU, if you will, for our RDF. And so that's really why we want to be able to separate that material and have that going to composting rather than landfilling. Because right now it's not going for waste to energy in that electricity generation. And so with landfilling, that material increases the greenhouse gas emissions because there's better uses for that material.
And to build on what Nikki said, I agree with that. It's just another opportunity for us to find a higher value for that material. It's got potential. It's got a high value as a compost, as a soil amendment. And for those of you that use compost in your gardens, it retains the soil moisture, and it does provide some additional potential nutrients, and it improves the aeration of the soil. just the soil performance is much higher when compost is added. So there's a value there. And the anaerobic digestion that Nikki mentioned, we're getting energy from that waste or from that food material. If food goes into a landfill, it does break down and it does give off the same biogas, or I would say biogas, but it gives off methane. And a lot of that methane in a landfill environment, although they do have active gas collection systems on the closed sections of the landfill, the open sections of the landfill that are still receiving waste continue to allow that methane to get released to the atmosphere. And that's a very, very strong greenhouse gas. So we feel this is a much more responsible manner of managing food waste. So obviously we want people to reduce or generate less food waste, but for the food waste that does get generated, this is what we feel is the best way to manage it.
Where does the organic waste recycling at the Washington County Environmental Center go currently?
For Washington County, our material is brought to SCT, which is a composting facility here in the metro. And so it's made into a finished compost.
Another question, what can we do to assure our community is among the phase 1 of the combustible communities?
Do you want to answer that one, Michael? Or
Yeah, we want to be up there.
We have a lot of interest. And one thing I just want to state, and I mentioned it just briefly in my presentation, is that there is set parameters that we're trying to launch this with. And by that, we want to start with the communities that can work with our haulers that has a direct route, for example, to our facility. There's a number of parameters that we're trying to navigate. We have been hearing from communities that there's a lot of interest. And so I think what we've been working with is with our cities and townships as well to engage them and try to determine the level of participation. I think if you're interested, you can certainly let us know tonight or even directly, but I think we're going to be limited to some of those infrastructure parameters as we start launching this.
So we can't be lobbying for it right now, though. We have another question. What can we do to assure our community is among, again, it's another question, same question, but by a different person. So about being phase 1. So anything, yeah.
You know, beyond this, and I really appreciate the enthusiasm. This is of all the programs we've released in recent years, this is by far the most popular with the highest profile. And we absolutely want to get it right. So we need to be very thoughtful about how we roll it out. But in the meantime, there are opportunities within Ramsey County. We're collecting, we've got a number of drop-off sites for food scraps across the entire county. And the information about those specific sites is available on our website. And Nikki, can you talk a little bit about what Washington County is offering?
We have our drop-off, as someone had asked, kind of alluded to, we have our drop-off at the County Environmental Center in Woodbury, and then we have a northern yard waste site where you can drop off food scraps as well. And then the city of Matamidi just started last fall, a county-wide drop-off. So anyone in the county can use that drop-off as well.
Again, along those same lines, when someone's asking about the nonprofits, can churches seek grants?
Yes, absolutely.
And what do they need to do to go about doing that?
They would go to our website, bizrecycling.com, and they could enter in information, and they'll receive a phone call and get the process started.
We're not seeing any more questions coming in. How about each of you kind of just sum up final advice for our viewers and how they can be more proactive and do a better job?
Well, I can start, Michael, and then you can wrap up. I think that whole idea where with one of my last slides, if you can really be recycling right and not wish cycling, we've heard, and trying to be able to recycle everything. And then even upstream from that, trying to buy materials and products that you know are recyclable. And then in terms of all our programming that we were talking about, I really appreciate all the excitement, like Michael had alluded to, and any way that we can get the word out. And maybe even we can come back once we have the program up and running, just to show people how it works in the home and how this is something we want to be accessible to everyone, so everyone can participate. I think that'll be something that we'll look forward to coordinating with, I think, a little bit more.
But I think to build on that, it's there's a lot of decisions that we all make as consumers, and I guess we can only focus on what we can control, and a lot of that is obviously the decisions we all make as residents, and also within our business roles. But thinking about purchasing for durability, versus something that's going to wear out and require disposal or management. I worked at a landfill prior to joining Ramsey County, and everything in your house, my house, your office, my office has got to go someplace sometime when it gets worn out. And what's that going to be? And for the answer a lot of people reach for, because it's easy, is I'm going to throw it away. Well, we can do better than that. Obviously, people are aware of the Goodwills, the ARCs, the St. Vincent de Paul's, and all of those reuse donation centers. And I mentioned earlier that there's also a number of different retailers for used building materials in the Twin Cities as well. There's Restore in New Brighton, that's part of Habitat. And they've also got a Restore location in Minneapolis, Better Futures, Minnesota, Bauer Brothers, and Architectural Antiques. There's quite a few different facilities across the metro that just manage used building materials. So it's really quite fascinating. If you're looking for a field trip, I recommend going to one of those places, and you see it once, and it'll change how you view a lot of those materials. Looking at Nikki mentioned the term wish cycling, and a lot of people just believe if I just put it in the recycling, it's going to magically get recycled. Well, that's not necessarily the case. With plastics, the only 3 plastics that are really getting recycled right now where there's markets are 1s, 2s, and 5s. If you can find the chasing arrow symbol and it's got a 1, 2, or 5 in it with your plastics, then it's got a really good chance of being recycled. Otherwise, no. I think just coming back again to a lot of your decisions, and then recycling, right, as Nikki mentioned as well, that don't put your plastic bags in there. Take your plastic bags to a grocery store or to one of the county's environmental centers. They recover those for recycling. Look at household hazardous waste options. When you go to buy products, maybe it's solvents, maybe it's paint. Think about how big your job is, how much you really need to get the job done. Make sure you don't leave your latex paint in the garage in the wintertime and it freezes and then it's worthless. There's just a lot of different smaller things. Nikki mentioned backyard composting too. That's a big opportunity to reduce the amount of waste. When you're mowing your lawn, don't put the bag on it. Just let the grass clippings fall into the grass, and they break down just the way nature intended, and that becomes a fertilizer over time. So there's just little things that we can all do, and that can be translated on a larger scale to those of you that have roles within business and institutions and churches about what you do. So I'll leave it at that, but I really appreciate the question.
Yeah, I really like all that great advice. I'm going to tell my son, quit using the bottled waters, right away. Any other comments though, before we close? Nikki, anything that you'd want to add?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, because any chance we can get out and talk about some of our new programs, the better. So thank you.
Just fascinating. It was really very interesting. So it's really a pleasure to have you both with us, Nikki Stewart and Michael Reed, and thank you for all the work that you do. And I'll toss it back to Betsy. Thank you, guys.
I want to just add my thank you, and we're very lucky because we live near the environmental center here in off of Bailey, and I love we've gotten paint at the reuse store from there, and we take our food scraps up there. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask that didn't get answered, since you guys said that the food scraps that go to the environmental center really go to landfill, should we just wait and not take them there?
Thanks for asking that question, because I do want to clarify. When someone is not separating their food scraps and they're just putting in the trash, it goes to the Recycling and Energy Center. Once it arrives at the Recycling and Energy Center, most of that material is too heavy and wet to be made into refuse-derived fuel, so it ends up in the landfill. If you're already separating your material and bringing it to one of our county drop-offs and you're using a compostable bag, that
Right.
material is going to SCT, a compost facility. So that is being composted. And so really going forward, even with this food scrap bag pickup program from your home, the county drop-off sites will complement that. Similar to where you see recycling drop-off locations, there still will be a need for folks, whether they're within walking distance or they have a larger amount or they don't have bags or what have you. We see this in complement, both the county drop-off sites and also the food scrap pickup service.
Okay, I just got confused because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm taking all these.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so very much. It is just so important. My husband had gotten a grant for our church, actually from Biz Recycling, to help them create a little curriculum for the preschool there, because you know, we figure if we can get the little kids going, you know, they'll get the parents doing what we're supposed to be doing. So it's such an important thing. And 450,000 tons. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. That really is. Thank you. And Michael, you have an additional comment?
Yes, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to talk about the horrors of batteries going in the trash.
Oh,
And I just thought about this now, but it's, you know, with our household hazardous waste programs, we do collect batteries. And one of the biggest concerns we've got right now are lithium batteries. And lithium batteries are what's out there, that you can buy them in all the same sizes as the traditional alkaline batteries, AA's, AAA's, and all of that. And the problem with lithium batteries is that they can cause battery fires. And they can cause fires at recycling centers. There was actually a transfer station up in Blaine that caught fire about 3 years ago, and it was a total loss. And they caught it on the security camera, but no one was there at the time. But we're strongly encouraging all of our residents and businesses to make sure they're getting the batteries to a recycling outlet and not put them in the trash. We can't have fires. It's, you know, just be really disruptive and very damaging. It could set us back considerably if we had property destruction. But it's these fires. It's not a question of if these fires will happen at these facilities. It's a matter of when. And so we need everybody to do their part to keep these out of the trash.
so it's just the lithium. It's not the alkaline.
That's correct. But what we're doing with our household hazardous waste programs is we're taking all the battery types, because sometimes it's very difficult. I need to get my reading glasses on to read the fine print on some of these batteries to figure out what they are. So, you know, take all your batteries to the household hazardous waste collection sites, and we'll sort them out there for you.
Great, great. Well, thank you again. This has been just fabulous and such important information for all of us. And it's an example of what each individual can do to make a difference in this. I hate those pictures of the whales in the ocean being covered with plastic, and oh my gosh, it's just awful. So thank you again. I just want to close with reminding all of us about some upcoming events. We've got a great program on April 18th on how elections work in Washington County. Our speaker is Christine Pishkara, Taxpayer Service and Elections Division Manager, and Jacob Probst, who's an election coordinator. We also have a wonderful Let's Talk session coming up. People have really been excited about our Let's Talk sessions. And this one is a special 3-session discussion series podcast on Inherited, which is about the youth climate movement. So it's another extension from our environmental and climate work. And hopefully we're going to have some youth that are participating. It'll be the first 3 Wednesday evenings in April. Look for information on your in your newsletter, and we'll get some more information out. It's a cohort program, so please do sign up. And then we have our state council happening on April 30th. It's going to be virtual this year, which is a wonderful opportunity for every single one of our members to be able to register. It's only $10. We had a great time last year, actually, virtually connecting with each other in between some of the workshops and stuff. We also need one additional delegate, voting delegate. We allowed 5 based on the number of members that we have. And then look for more details on our annual meeting coming up in May. You'll be getting some budget and nomination slates and our annual meeting itself. So we're really excited to have you attend that. And I'm going to turn it over to Mary. Brett, she's got some last minute information. Mary. You can see the replay of tonight's discussion. It'll be available soon on our blog and tiny URL YouTube. So thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. It's been a great discussion. And thank you again, Michael and Nikki. Have a good evening.